The beginning of this unit should seem like a review. In fact, these first few weeks, I hope, feel like a review of things that you've done in elementary school. Now, I don't know how much you studied history, but the state of California, you're supposed to study. So, like when we get to Father Sarah later and California's history and some of the early history, really, you're supposed to have studied even through the Civil War. So, hopefully, this is familiar territory. And certainly, you can't repeat, and we won't repeat everything in this condensed environment that you got, I hope, when you were younger. But to begin with, you looked at what does it mean to be an American and what are the foundations of America? And you saw that this is a big debate now. Who are we as a country? Well, you're going to start out by a review of the explorers and how you maybe remember the stories of Magellan and Columbus and his attempts and the controversy around Columbus. So you're going to be reminded of that through reading out of the American Pageant textbook. So these are the places that they came. And again, there's so many fantastic stories. I'm not going to share them here, but Magellan and his voyage around the world, you may remember where he's given credit for making it all the way around the world, but he never did. He tried to circumnavigate the world through here, the Straits of Magellan. He dies out here in the Philippines. His crew makes it all the way around. He's not there, but he's given credit for it. It tells you a little bit about history's written. Then when, of course, they get to America, and if you see Lewis and Clark in the middle, this jumps way further forward. But again, I want to remind you with this that the exploration doesn't stop when they get to the shore, that they're exploring and they're excited about all the possibilities. You know the story Ponce de Leon. Wasn't one of the Pirates movies, Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that, that dealt with Ponce de Leon and the Fountain of Youth and these kinds of legends out here, the cities of gold that took place. And I don't expect you in any way to memorize all the explorers and where they went. I just want you to get early on a sense of a reminder that we don't just start history with like the Puritans showed up or start history with the Revolutionary War, how'd Washington get here. So this is really to set the context so that you remember the explorers as you read. And then, of course, remembering the native tribes that were already here. I mean, Columbus discovered America only in the context of the Europeans. And we will, of course, throughout the course, talk about and study what happened, certainly not with all the tribes, but the tribes as the Native Americans and how they were treated is a very big part of American history. You'll be reading throughout and studying throughout. Then we will focus, and all what I just went through is fairly rapid in the course. I wish we had more time. We simply don't, but it's going to be a reminder. You're going to get it mostly through reading chapter 1 in the American Pageant. Then eventually we will look at, and you'll read in this first chapter, you'll read about Spain. We're over here in the corner here. We don't even feel like America to lots of people because the foundation is of course on the East Coast. You read about Spain, France settlements, and then the English colonies. And then we're going to narrow in on the English colonies, Puritans, Pilgrims, and the foundations. We'll head toward the Revolution. We'll get back to the story of France later. And then, of course, much later, we'll have the Mexican-American War. We'll have conflicts out, and we'll talk about how we come in. But that's really much later in history. So we will teach this class. You'll learn this class from the East to the West. But you should always keep in mind that the history of America, that works from a government standpoint and literally the country of the United States of America, but the people that lived out here, native tribes and groups that live out here, the Californians, the Texans, they are all part of what will end up being America, living their sort of separate development. But again, these are things that will come as we expand from really the East to the West. So the first unit, you're really going to be reading about explorers some, and you're going to be moving toward the English colonies, and then we're going to focus in on the English colonies, and then who we are as American. Are we really a Puritan nation? You said, what does it mean to be an American? Are we really a religious nation? Or, Georgia is a colony down here settled from people that were criminals, although criminals meant something different back then. You could be in debtor's prison back in England. Anyhow, they were settled in. So the history of who we are is everywhere, but the story begins here, and we're going to move really fairly rapidly into the English colonies. So that's an overview of where we're going. And then the colonies themselves, Virginia, right here, is considered a southern colony, and we'll look, and we won't study everyone in detail, but we'll talk about the main events and the things that really lead toward our founding as a nation with the American Revolution.